There's a popular game amongst British Commonwealth countries called lawn bowls. And it's a game where you roll a ball underarm towards a white ball at the end called a jack. It sounds pretty simple, but there's more to it. That the ball that you roll has a bias to one side. And this causes that ball to be biased to one side to roll a certain way. So the ball just doesn't go straight for your jack. It rolls a certain way. And if you turn the ball the other side, it rolls the other way. And there's tactics involved in that. You can knock out the opposition's ball and so on. It's a good game. But the point is this, that lawn bowls is a great way of looking at what happened to the believer when the believer got saved. I've always said that when we were born again, or born of God, or saved, born from above, however you want to say it, when we got born again, more happened to us than we realize. You see, we just didn't get saved from going to hell, even though that's great. We just didn't have our sins forgiven, even though that's great. Something else happened as well, in that God gave us his very nature. We now have Christ's nature within. And like the bowling ball, it causes a bias towards the things of God. It causes a bias towards righteousness. It changes us forever. So now, because we have Christ's nature in us, now we want to be a father pleaser. Now we want to live in righteousness. Now we have a desire to seek the things of God. It has changed us from the inside out. Now our want to has changed. Now I want to forgive my enemies. Now I want to love others. Now I want to help others. It's incredibly powerful. All those things, to live righteously now, springs up from within because it's his very nature. So this causes my life to be biased towards the things of the kingdom. It's very powerful, wonderful. And this is what separates us from other religions and philosophies and isms, in that they are involved with behavior modification. But true Christianity is nature transformation. That's why I call it God's bowling ball. That when we got saved, we got a brand new bias in us, and it's now intrinsic. Now we can't help but wanting to do the right thing. We can't help but loving God and worshipping him. I remember at school once somebody said to me, "Oh, how could you be a Christian and go to those boring church services?" And I said, "I know you might not understand this, but I actually want to go to church. I actually want to sing those boring songs." And I've got to say, some of them were quite boring in those days. Anyway, that's another issue. But I said to him, I want to go to church. I want to love God. And he didn't understand it. And I understand why. I couldn't understand why he didn't understand. But he didn't have that new nature in him that I had. Even I didn't understand that. Paul says it this way, that we are no longer slaves to sin, but you now have become slaves to righteousness. See, until you are born of God, you already have a bias. An unbeliever has a bias towards sin and darkness. Oh yes, they can do the occasional good works and so on. I'm not talking about that. They can donate to charities, yes, but there is a bias towards unrighteousness. But for the believer, we have a bias towards righteousness. Our want to has changed. We can't help ourselves. When we are born again, we have new inclinations. We have a new want to, new desires. It's transformational. It changes us. So that's why I call it God's bowling ball, because of the bias towards the kingdom. Enjoy bowling.